When you hear the phrase ghost town, you probably immediately picture, creepy ruins, a couple of tumbleweeds rolling by, maybe an old horror movie set. Well, in this explainer, we're going to completely reframe how you look at America's forgotten frontier. We're talking about transforming these dusty, abandoned relics into your absolute next vibrant heritage tourism road trip. We're going to dive right into their incredible life cycles, from massive, chaotic booms to truly tragic busts, and finally, their brilliant rebirths as destinations you can actually visit today.
And just to help you grasp the sheer massive scale of this, we are looking at over 3,800 researched ghost towns spread out across the country. I mean, that is just staggering. We aren't talking about like a handful of unlucky outposts here. This is a massive historical footprint that is just waiting to be explored. California alone has nearly 350 of them, and states like Texas, they boast over 500 recorded ghost towns scattered literally everywhere.
Now this maps perfectly to a very specific era in American history. As American Studies professor Peter Ling points out, the vast majority of these towns sprang up between 1880 and 1940. It was this crazy time. People are frantically chasing valuable resources, whether that was gold up in the Rockies or oil down in Texas, while desperately needing railroads to ship all those extracted riches, and, of course, vast herds of cattle back east to the big markets.
So the crucial takeaway here is that behind the thousands of abandoned sites, there's actually a very distinct recurring pattern. The 10 historic ghost towns we're going to focus on today all share this fascinating three-step life cycle. Okay, step 1, a super rapid boom fueled by resource discovery or some strategic need. Step 2, a sudden or sometimes agonizingly slow bust brought on by depletion, global wars, or natural disasters. And step 3, and this is really where you come in, a modern rebirth through heritage tourism.
Section 1. The Gold and Silver Rush.
What's truly fascinating to me here is just how diverse these downfalls actually were. It wasn't always just the classic, the gold dried up story, though, that certainly happened. Look at Bannack, Montana, right? It was briefly the capital of the state, but its easy-to-reach ore was totally depleted as early as 1870. But then look at Berlin, Nevada. This company town was abandoned by the 1910s because the mine closed in response to labor strikes. St. Elmo in Colorado simply suffered from increasingly poor quality ore. And then global conflict played a massive role too. Garnett, Montana saw its miners literally leave for World War I, and later efforts were just halted completely by World War II. It was a similar story in Bodie, California. The last mine there didn't close until 1942, specifically because dynamite and other critical resources were being redirected toward the war effort.
But hey, the real draw here is what you can experience right now, today. These aren't just empty fields. In Bodie, you can literally peer into 110 standing structures kept in a state of what they call arrested decay. It's wild. In Bannack, there are about 60 intact structures you can wander right through. Over in Garnett, you can actually attend Garnet Day to experience 19th century life firsthand. St. Elmo remains a highly picturesque summer tourist destination. Actually, a few inhabitants still live there. And my personal favorite twist, in Berlin, Nevada, you aren't just exploring an old mining camp. The park is famously home to prehistoric marine mammal fossils. You get a ghost town and a dinosaur dig in one single road trip. How cool is that?
Section 2. Fueling the modern world. Now notice this incredible contrast and how industrial demands completely dictated a town's survival. Kennecott, way up in the stunning Valdez-Cordova area of Alaska, was birthed in 1903. Why? Well, because the sudden emergence of electric power exponentially increased the value of the copper deposits they found there. Electricity needed copper. On the flip side, Castle Dome in Arizona was established way back in 1862 as a silver mining camp. It almost went bust when miners realized most of the ore was actually lead. But plot twist, that so-called useless lead became incredibly profitable later on. Castle Dome actually survived by successfully shifting to supply lead for bullet manufacturing during both World Wars. Then we have Steins, New Mexico, which shows a much more tragic timeline that was heavily reliant on infrastructure. It started out in the 1880s with precious metals, but it pivoted in 1905 when a rock quarry opened up to provide ballast for the railways. When that quarry closed in 1925, the town went into severe decline. But the ultimate bust, the final nail in the coffin really, came in 1944. The railroad closed. And because the railroad was this desert town's absolute only source of water, the residents literally had zero choice. They just had to pack up and depart. But today, these heavy industry relics are welcoming visitors for totally unique experiences. You can venture out into the Alaskan wilderness to see Kennecott's massive multi-story mill buildings. I mean, they are huge, and they've made it a super popular tourist destination since the 1970s. Or you can head down to Arizona to explore Castle Dome's mines, which impressively operated all the way into the 1970s before being thoughtfully converted into a really immersive museum. Even Steins, with its harsh desert environment, has had its surviving buildings intermittently open to tourists, offering this stark, very real glimpse into frontier survival.
Section 3. Forts, Floods, and Farms.
Okay, so not every ghost town was tied to mining or rails. Here we see how extreme weather unequivocally sealed the fates of some true outliers. Just look at Fort Jefferson in Monroe County, Florida. It started back in 1846 as an anti-piracy fortress, right? Then it became a Civil War prison, a quarantine station, and a refueling point. But it was entirely abandoned in 1906 because of catastrophic hurricane damage. Contrast that with Harrisburg, Utah. The original settlers actually relocated there in 1862 specifically to escape a flood, only to be starved out and effectively abandoned by 1895 due to severe, relentless drought. It's just a really stark reminder of how deeply at the mercy of Mother Nature early settlers actually were.
But hey, despite taking immense damage from that 1906 hurricane, Fort Jefferson stands today as an absolute marvel. Declared a national monument, this massive brick fortress, which, by the way, is the largest brick structure in the United States, offers a totally unique ghost fort experience, completely surrounded by the beautiful crystal blue waters of Florida.
And if you happen to be driving out west, right off Interstate 15 in Utah, you can just pull over and easily see the stone remains of Harrisburg. The real standout here is the last fully intact building, the Orson B. Adams home. It has been beautifully maintained and restored by the Bureau of Land Management, and it stands as this quiet, highly accessible monument to those early agricultural struggles. So what does this all mean when we look at the big picture? Breaking down the causes across our 10 featured sites, the bust phase clearly comes in many forms. While Mother Nature and economics absolutely played their parts, it was ultimately resource depletion and the sudden redirection of resources for global wars that served as the primary ghost town makers. The life cycle is just deeply, inextricably tied to what the Earth can provide and what global society abruptly demands. So, the very next time you're planning a road trip, remember this explainer. These sites, they aren't just empty, spooky ruins. They are interactive, open-air museums of the American frontier, and they are just waiting for your visit. They offer a tangible, real-world connection to the ambition, the grit, and, yes, the heartbreak of westward expansion. From prehistoric fossils in a Nevada mining camp to a massive brick fortress floating in the Florida Ocean, which forgotten piece of history will you add to your itinerary next?